We'd be remiss if we didn't acknowledge, dare I call her a friend of the show, Tara Vanderveer, retiring, all-time wins leader in college basketball. Thanks for everything. Thank you for your contribution to sport in general, to women's sports in particular, and for coming on our show. She blessed our show once upon a time, the way Kurt is blessing it right now. Speaking of coaches, though, let me pivot to the Charlotte Hornets G League coach, Lindsey Harding, former WNBA player, obviously former college basketball player, number 1 overall pick, I believe.
Yeah.
It feels like this sea change that we're talking about, this shift that we're talking about culturally, Kurt, it feels like now may just be the time. We thought it would be Becky Hammon, but it feels like now may be the time, and she may be the one to break that particular glass ceiling when it comes to a woman coaching an NBA team. She's being interviewed, by the way. I don't think I mentioned that. She's being interviewed by the Hornets to replace Steve Clifford. Mr. Headline. Replace Steve Clifford as head coach of the Hornets. And it feels like she may be the one to break through.
She's got the resume for it. She's got, she's proven she can. She didn't just coach the Kings G League team this year. They had the best record in the league. They made the conference finals. She's very good at this. And I hope, and I believe in this case, but I genuinely hope that it's not just the Hornets ownership wanting to check a box on the way to hiring whoever they're going to hire. That this is a real chance and a real opportunity, because when you talk about Becky Hammon, who had multiple first chances, or multiple interviews with teams, she said, some of these people felt like they just should, right? They're going to check the box and say, hey,
token interviews. Yeah,
token interviews. We did this. I don't think that that's the case here. I'll also tell you guys, just talking to people around the league, Lindsey's name comes up. The other name that they would like, if she were available, and I don't think she's interested, they would love to get Dawn Staley. People see Dawn Staley as a leader who come in and command an NBA locker room tomorrow. I think she's happy where she is. I've heard nothing about that, but I will tell you, NBA people look at her and go, we'd hire her.
Feels natural.
I got to tell you.
I would say the interest feels natural, Michael. The interest in Dawn Staley. Like, how could you not? If you're an NBA team, hell, if you're an office in politics, how could you, a political office? How could you not be interested in Dawn Staley as a candidate in any walk of life?
I'm just telling you this. So I don't buy it. I don't buy
Which
it.
Part?
And when Kurt said, "Hey, look, I don't want them to just check the box." You know what? Check the box. Check the box and let's have a press conference. Because we haven't even checked the box yet. I think NBA owners, I'm just waiting for one of them to have the courage to do it. Just have the courage to do it. I'm not impressed by the chatter. I'm not impressed by the speculation. I'm not impressed by the interview. I'm not impressed by the second interview. Let me tell you, Kurt. Hey, Kurt and Mike. I was looking the other day, looking again just to make sure I had it right. The San Antonio Spurs, where Becky Hammon got her start as an assistant coach in the league, there were some people she coached with who are now on their second jobs as head coaches in the league. So she was an assistant with Ime. Ime's on his second job. What's his name? James, is it Borreggio?
Borreggio, yeah.
Yeah, he had 2 opportunities to be a head coach. Sean Marks was an assistant with the Spurs. He's a general manager. So Becky Hammon has been there with the Spurs, did her time with the Spurs, then goes to the WNBA, builds a champion, a 2-time champion in the WNBA, and we're still saying, hey, well, we don't know. What don't we know? NBA's not ready. They should be ready. They say they're ready. I don't believe it. Prove it to me. They're not ready.
Right, but at some point, so are you saying it will never happen? Or are you just saying you're tired of hearing to talk about it, you just want to see a little more action?
They're cowards. I'm saying there are too many cowards. There are too many cowards in the league. Too many cowards.
But only thing I would say to you, though, is this. I don't necessarily have the I'm gonna call it defeatist. And you keep it in a buck, but I'm saying it's going to happen probably when we least expect it with the person we least expect.
I hope so.
I mean, what I think about Michael? You know what popped in my head when you said that? Sherm Lewis popped in my head. Like, Sherm Lewis should have been a head coach in the NFL. And there's a lot of black men who should have been head coaches in the NFL, but weren't. Eventually, and certainly that's still a problem in the NFL. We all know that. But eventually we got to a point where Raheem Morris could get a second job, for example. So you're right, Becky Hammond feels like she's as deserving as anybody. And we've seen this movie before about interviews, but maybe Lindsey Harding is the one to get it, even if Becky Hammond was always deserving. Maybe she doesn't get it. Maybe it's lip service. Maybe they're just riding a wave. I hear you. I hear your frustration. I share the impatience. But what if it is real? And at some point, Kurt, doesn't it have to be?
I hope it's real.
Because Dawn Staley, I don't know how much experience Dawn Staley has in football, but hell, if I were an NFL team, I'd be looking at Dawn Staley. Because I don't care what the sport or what the profession is, I'm looking at Dawn Staley right now.
The other thing is, it's going to take the right organization and the right owner, like you guys talked about. It's going to take the right star player that is willing to bring her in. Because the star players in the NBA are the people with the power, right? They are the ones who control what's. Hey man, if the Bucks are hiring a coach this summer, they're getting Adrian Griffin because Giannis Antetokounmpo signed off on it. Who is the star? Maybe it's LaMelo Ball and what they're building in Charlotte, but that's why Hammond worked so well with the Spurs. Tim Duncan was good with it. The Spurs, Tony Parker, when she first came in and it was still a little bit of that group, they were good with it. It's going to take the right player who's like, can she coach? Then let's bring her in. And it might be somebody younger and of a younger generation who's willing to do that.
And that's why I said it's now the time, because I do think there's a correlation between what we're talking about with the growth and the explosion of women's basketball, in particular at the college level, but also the W. I mean, the WNBA draft might outrate the last 5 years worth of drafts for all we know, right? It's like talking about that and this moment that we're in, I think provides maybe the motivation that these quote unquote cowards need, Michael, to take this step. Because you and I both know in any sport, all players want is somebody that can make them better. And Lindsey Harding talked about this. There is no path. You have video guys, Eric Spoelstra, Mike Brown. You have video guys who never played who reached the highest level of coaching. I understand they're men, but you have video guys reaching the highest level of coaching. You have ex-coaches, or ex-players, I beg your pardon, who coach. You have television guys who coach. It's like there is no path. And if Lindsey Harding has already proved at the G League level, if she can convince a star or an organization that she can make players better, her gender is not, I don't know that her gender is going to stand in the way of that in this time and for this generation. There's also a lot of old people having this conversation, not just literally right now, but I don't know how much these young dudes worry about a woman leading a locker room full of men. That feels like such an antiquated, old man way of thinking anyway, that I don't know that this generation necessarily generally subscribes to. I'm not saying there aren't some, but they're watching Caitlin Clark. They're watching Angel Reese. They're watching Dawn Staley. They're growing up in this moment. I just don't know that it's as much of an impediment as it once was. Yes, it's not as much of an impediment as it once was. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, maybe those young guys are not listening, Kurt and Mike, but maybe they're not worried about it, but there's got to be a bridge. So the people in the front office and ownership have to provide the bridge for the young people to have that person in the locker room. And so what's happening is, we're watching it, and then somebody in the front office says, no, we can't, I just can't do it. I just got to go with, hey, I believe in it, but just not for this team. I believe in it for somebody else. It's like when you when you talk to your neighbors, say, hey, do you believe in affordable housing? Absolutely. How about we put something right down the street? Nope. Not down the street. Do it somewhere else. So,
no, I like that.
Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget, you can catch us
3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.